Let's start today's webinar. Good evening, everyone. This is Chaitanya, the Brand Solution Manager at CA Club India. Today we have with us Mr. Binod Shankar. He's a chartered accountant and a CFA chartered holder. After 17 years in corporate career, where he rose to be executive director in a A-listed bank, Binod has taught around 4,000 plus CFA candidates all across all levels over last 12 years, establishing a reputation as a top trainer and a mentor. He now spends his time as a frequent market analyst on CNBC Arabia, a board member of a CFA Society Emirates, a blogger, platform speaker, and as the host of the Real-Time Finance Mentor podcast, which focuses on insights and inspiration for finance career. I welcome you, Binod.
Thank you, Chaitanya. So, guys,
handing over to you, Binod. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just request everyone to not to turn on their video cameras and just mute themselves. Okay, thank you.
Hi guys, good afternoon from Dubai. This is Binod Shankar here. I hope you're well. Thanks to CA Club India for organizing this. So this is going to be a very interesting next 1 hour, where I'm going to talk to you about how to succeed in CFA. Yeah, quite a few familiar names I can recognize. Ratandeep Singh and Yukta from our LinkedIn connections. So let me start off right now and let's get this presentation going, right? So my background, Chaitanya has already talked to you about that. I hope you can hear me, all of you. Yeah. My background is basically 2 decades spent in the Middle East, KPMG, Anderson, EY, joined the world's one of the world's largest property development companies and became a director of finance there. Then joined the investment bank and became an executive director there. And then in 2009, I quit corporate life after 17 years and started a CFA prep company called Genesis, where I taught, like Chaitanya mentioned, 4,000 plus CFA students over more than a decade. The company was sold to Kaplan a few years ago. So now what I do is I'm a market analyst. I speak at events, CFA events, CA events, other events. I'm a board member of the local CFA society called CFA Society Emirates. And I'm a blogger and podcaster. This is my website. You'll find lots of resources there. And we'll talk about that later during this webinar. I'm a chartered accountant, qualified long ago. So I'm very old. Don't guess my age. And I'm a CFA charter holder, qualified 15 years ago, right? And of course, a qualified executive coach and mentor from the UK. That's my background, right? Today, we're going to talk about CFA, and we're going to talk about quite a few things. Why CFA? What's the relevance of CFA? Why should you not do CFA? Why should you do CFA, right? And also about what is eligibility criteria to get into CFA. Very importantly, the 3 levels of CFA, right? What's different, what's unique, how do you tackle those? Some tips, some tricks, some hacks. Of course, then we'll talk about, CFA versus CA, CFA versus MBA, the pros and cons of CFA. I like to be quite impartial and independent and insightful as well. I'll talk to you about the podcast and what resources you can use from the podcast, including webinars as well. And we'll have a Q&A session towards the end for about 15 to 20 minutes, which Chaitanya will be moderating. Yeah, please keep your questions coming in on the chat box. Please send the questions to everyone, not just to me, so that everyone can see the questions. And we will answer most of those questions towards the end in the Q&A session. But I would like to see the questions coming so that I can calibrate while I present. Yeah. So that's the agenda, that's the rules. Please keep your videos off and your voices on mute so that this can be a smooth presentation, right? So the first part, before I get into CFA, I need to talk about investment management. What is investment management? Well, this is what CFA focuses on. It prepares you for a career in investment management. Basically, you manage other people's money. And that could be clients, in terms of individuals or institutional clients. Institutional can be educational, insurance companies, pension funds, governments. You manage their money, right? You call these guys asset managers or fund managers. That's what you call them. And what you do when you work in investment management is you do a lot of stuff, right? You do financial analysis, you do portfolio allocation between equities and bonds and things like that. You do equity research where you issue buy and sell or hold recommendations, things like that, right? And this investment management universe, it covers three things. Asset management, which is institutional asset management, where you work in a mutual fund or a sovereign wealth fund or a hedge fund. Wealth management, where you manage money for rich people, what we call HNIs, high net worth individuals. And investment research, which actually is linked to both, where basically you prepare reports on various asset classes, recommending buy, hold, or sell, or publish macroeconomic research on countries and on economies and things like that. Yeah. So that's what investment management is about, because it's very important to mention that before we dive into the details of CFA. Right? Now, who are the players in investment management? Who are the key companies that you should be looking at? And I mentioned these names because when you go out hunting for jobs, you should know whom to talk to, right? So these are the categories, right? You have hedge funds. Now, the biggest hedge funds are Bridgewater, AQR, Man Group, Citadel. Very few hedge funds in India. These are global players, huge multi-billion-dollar players. What they do is they have lots of interesting strategies, high-risk strategies using leverage and short selling and derivatives. And they are quite successful. And of course, they have also gone belly up as well. You have private equity funds like Carlyle and Kotak in India that basically invest in companies and hope that they go public and make a lot of money for everyone. In India, I think the biggest job scope is probably in mutual funds, where like Reliance, HDFC, or ICICI, where you have analysts, associates, researchers, economists, portfolio managers, deputy portfolio managers, things like that, right? In this part of the world, in the UAE, in Saudi, in Norway, in Singapore, you have something like sovereign wealth funds like ADIA and GIC. Now, what these guys do is they manage money for the government. Like over here, they manage the sheikh's money, about $700 billion. In fact, in the Middle East, ADIA is the single largest employer of CFA charter holders, right? GIC is in Singapore. Then you have impact funds that focus on agriculture or sustainability or climate change. Then you have distressed funds, what you call vulture funds, that invest in distressed assets like debt, bonds, company loans. So various players in the investment management space. So when you're looking for a career, these are the kinds of companies that would be really interested in the CFA charter. So keep that in mind, because it's not a blanket qualification meant for any and every company or sector. Right? That's the very important part to talk about, right? Now, about CFA, right? I mean, it's quite old, about 60 years old now. It's very respected, fantastic growth worldwide, and it is what you call the gold standard in investment management education. Again, I'm going to stress that it's not finance, because finance is a huge domain with banking, insurance, et cetera, et cetera. This is investment management, right? And of course, the benefits of earning the CFA charter had to be spelled out, right? So one, of course, higher compensation. How much? Difficult to say. Depends on the role, the company, where you work, right? Things like that, the size of the company, but definitely higher. International recognition, very important, because you have one CFA institute, right? Globally. You don't have multiple CFA institutes like MBA institutes. So that's a huge advantage of CFA. Whether you go to Japan or Russia or Nigeria or Saudi Arabia or UK, CFA is CFA. And if you're planning to go overseas, it's a fantastic, what you call global passport that has global recognition. And of course, the curriculum of CFA is not specific to, say, Asia or US or UK or Europe. It's a global perspective. So if you look at tax management or private wealth management in level 3, they focus on tax management strategies that you can apply anywhere in the world. Accounting, reporting, analysis, they talk about IFRS, which is applicable in most countries around the world, far more than US GAAP, for example. So you get that fantastic knowledge with the global perspective, right? Of course, credibility. I mean, I still remember when I used to walk into companies' meetings and show them my card with Binod Shankar, CFA after my name, that instantly commanded respect and credibility, right? Because they can't bullshit you. They know exactly what you've done, what you've studied, because it's a very rigorous program. They know how tough it is to pass the exams. And everyone and his uncle has heard about CFA, even in people in faraway sectors like marketing or education or HR, they know about CFA, right? And of course, access to a global network. I mean, we have about 150 or 1,000 charter holders, about 140 societies, including the one in the UAE, you have in India, every country. So once you become a candidate and once you become a member and a charter holder, you have lots of access to resources, networking. And as you know, I keep saying this, right? Your network is your net worth, right? It is who you know, then what you know that matters sometimes. So you plug into the right people, the right places, and you develop relationships, and who knows what happens next. A lot of positive things happen next, right? So that's the advantage of CFA. We'll talk about the pros and cons in more detail later. It's coming up, yeah. Now, sectors with the highest proportion of CFA qualified employees as per the eFinancial Careers website. As you can see, asset management at the top is by far the biggest, right? So asset management, basically, it covers the institutional asset management, the sovereign wealth funds, the mutual funds. They employ about 16%, followed by investment banking, equities, research, et cetera, et cetera. So you can sort of get an idea of which sectors give priority to CFA by looking at this graphic, right? And as you can see at the bottom, trading, quantitative analytics, derivatives, not really a focus of CFA. The curriculum doesn't even focus much on these things. Very little on trading, for example, right? So you've got to be careful before you jump into CFA, because this session is meant for people who planning to go to CFA as well as those who are in CFA. And for those planning to get into CFA, you should know that, listen, this is not a qualification for all careers, for all sectors. This is meant for careers in 3 areas: asset management, right? Wealth management, investment research. This is where it has maximum impact. Other sectors, it has minimal or very low impact compared to other qualifications. So you should be very careful as to what sector you pick, right? Which means that you need to be sure that you want to work in these sectors doing these things. You should know yourself quite well, which is a very important part of what I tell my students and my mentees, right? So now that you know what do you mean by investment management, I've told you who are the key players, the key sectors. Now within these sectors, let me give you a snapshot of some key roles, right, that you can look at. As you know, you have a buy side and a sell side. Buy side are the guys who invest. These are the funds, what I talked about, right? The mutual funds, the hedge funds, they invest money, right? The sell side are those guys who sell services, the brokerages, the investment banks, the advisors who deal in mergers and acquisitions. These sell services so that the buy side and sell side collaborate. Buy side buys things from the sell side, loosely put, services mainly. So I'm going to give you an example of a role on the buy side and a role on the sell side, both for which CFA has relevance, right? So let's look at one role, right? One is the portfolio manager role, buy side. CFA is absolutely, I would say, almost mandatory for this role, right? CFA. So in this role, so what are you looking at? You need to have depth and breadth on a variety of sectors. You need to know about pharma, auto, healthcare, aviation, for example, construction, real estate, as a portfolio manager, because you'll be handling many companies in a portfolio. Okay. You need to have conviction on stocks and the entire portfolio. You need to have a very strong justification. You need to have a thesis. Why are you investing in these companies and these sectors at this time? You need to be able to make and change decisions quickly. A lot of people are very academic, but they can't decide. They're not decisive. If you're a CFA charter holder, if you're a portfolio manager, ability to change and make decisions, very important. And ability to shut out the noise, the nonsense. So if you're a fund manager, you'll be bombarded with information 24/7, with rumors, speculation, information. You can't allow your emotion and you can't allow noise to disrupt your thinking process. Very difficult as well sometimes, especially these times in pandemic, when markets and economies and stocks are crashing and volatility is very high. Yeah. Career growth happens via expansion of AUM. AUM means assets under management. So you grow the assets under management because you're a great fund manager, because people have heard about you. That's how you grow your career. You get paid more. Right? Now, on the sell side, you have analysts. Of course, on the buy side as well, you have analysts. But sell side analysts do something very interesting and different from buy side analysts. Right? Sell side analysts basically work for investment banks and brokers. That's what they do. Right? They are for brokerage. They win new business. So they send out lots of reports, research reports. If you're working in sell side, you know what I mean, right? On various companies, sectors, attracting business so that they get commissions or they get deals, whether it's a deal for an IPO or M&A or whatever it is, right? So there, your skill as an analyst is to be a good financial modeler. You must know Excel inside out. You must eat, sleep, and drink Excel, like I say to people, right? And you must be very good in report writing, research report generation. So writing technical English isn't easy, and you should be able to do that. If you can write well and model well, your life is made. You become a star analyst, because those are two key ingredients for success on the sell side, right? And of course, pitch book presentations. You pitch to clients to get business. So you prepare presentations, and you sometimes even go and physically make presentations in front of clients. So on the sales side, actually your sales skills, your communication skills, presentation skills are very important. Those skills are not that important on the buy side, where you're not selling to anyone. You're basically investing money on behalf of clients and trying to make them money. So there, the technical skills are probably more important than on the sales side. So that is a brief idea of the markets and the sectors and careers and roles and skills, right? Let's talk about the roadmap. How do you get the CFA charter? So starting from the left all the way to the right. Okay. Now, when we talk about the charter, we are talking about eligibility. Now, it's easy to get. Okay. Either you have a bachelor's degree, or you can be, so listen carefully, or you can be the final year of degree program, as in final year, final semester. Or if you don't have any of the two, you can have 4 years of professional work experience. And I'll talk to you what that means. Any of these three is sufficient eligibility to enter the program. Bachelor's degree can be anything from arts or history to statistics or physics or mathematics or finance or economics. Okay, so that's quite easy. It's quite flexible. It's quite wide in that sense. Enrollment is online. I don't need to tell you how to enroll. It's an online process. Just go to cfainstitute.org and straightforward, simple, paperless process, payment online. And when you enroll for the course, you're also enrolling for the first exam, which is level 1. So you pass the exam, level 1. I'll talk about the 3 levels. So you have level 1, level 2, level 3, which you have to write sequentially. And then at the end of this, by the time you have finished all these 3 exams, if you have accrued 4 years of relevant work experience, I'll talk about that as well, you become a member and you get the charter. So this is the full cycle. So you have your degree, you enroll, write all 3 levels, sequential order. By the time you finish at the 3 levels, or before or after, you need to accrue 4 years of experience, full-time experience, working in certain fields. You get the membership given to you. You become a member of CFA Institute. And by the time you get the CFA Institute membership, if you've also passed all 3 levels, you simultaneously get the charter. So passing all 3 levels is not the same as getting the charter. Does the charter have value? Yes, it does. Because it tells employers that this guy is not only academically bright and ambitious and focused enough to pass the exams, but he's also got 4 years of experience, which is very important because I don't want to train him from scratch. So the charter means a lot. Does passing level 3 alone make you attractive? Yes, it does. It shows that you're academically very quite accomplished and knowledgeable and determined, but you don't have the experience. Does level 1 passing make a difference? Far less than having the charter or level 3 or level 2. What a level 1 pass tells the employee is this guy is committed to a career in investment management. He knows what he needs to get there and he started the journey. That's what exactly it means to a potential employer. Nothing more, nothing less. So none of these 3 levels means a partial qualification. None of the 3 levels or even the charter is a guarantee to employment. It means different things for each level to the employers out there. So you need to get that point as well. Yeah. That's the roadmap. I'm going to talk about these elements, these different elements of the roadmap in the coming slides. Now, experience part, right? I'll talk about the last part first, right? The last part I talked about, the 4 years of experience you need to get the charter, the CFA charter. Now, what I call qualifying work experience, 48 months of qualifying work experience. Now, what does that mean? This is a full-time role, not internship, okay? Not as a consultant. You're a full-time role, not managing your own money or your family's money, irrespective of how rich you are or your family is. Basically, you can accrue this 4 months or for 4 years while you are doing the program, or when you have passed all 3 levels, or in previous positions. So the 4 years does not have to be together in one place, in one company. It can be 2 plus 1 plus 1, or 1 plus 3, or 3 plus 1. Some years before you started, some years after you finished. It can be broken up. As long as you have the work experience, it's fine, yeah? Now, what does it mean? What is the definition of qualifying work experience? Well, evaluating, applying financial, economic, and or statistical data, or supervising anyone who is doing that, or teaching such activities. Any of these 3 qualifies as QWE, right? So that has to be there. So that means that pure accounting work, pure auditing work, pure sales work, pure admin work may not qualify, right? It may not qualify because CFA Institute wants you to become a practitioner. This is a practitioner's qualification, guys. This is a technical practitioner's qualification. It's not like an MBA or a BBA, which is mostly theoretical. This is practitioners, which means you should be able to manage money or advise clients after you come out, right? So if you have any doubts on whether your experience fits in, don't check with me because I may not be able to give you a final authoritative answer and I don't want to mislead you. Check directly with CFA Institute, and I've given you the email address, and they will come back to you, send you a CV, right? Or an email with your description of what you've done so far, briefly, and they might come back to you and say yes or no. So it's good to know so that you can prepare to switch careers or switch jobs so that by the time you finish this 3 levels, you are eligible for the charter, or soon after 3 levels, you're eligible for the charter. So I always advise students, plan in advance, look at the experience requirements, and move accordingly, right? It doesn't mean that you should have to start immediately. Companies still employ people who have passed all 3 levels, like I said, even before you get the charter. But it's very important to know this before you start your journey, or at least while you're in level 1 or level 2 at least. That's the experience part to get the charter, right? To get the charter after writing the exams. Let's talk about the exams briefly. From the admin point of view, let's talk about level 1, level 2, level 3, right? Now, of course, most of you might be signed up for level 1 in December or planning to sign for level 1. So level 1 is, of course, so far for the last 40 years, 50 years, it's been June, December, June, December. Now from next year onwards, it's going to be quarterly, and it's going to be computer-based testing, which is online. Okay, but in December, it's going to be, as usual, written exam. Okay, it's 240 multiple choice questions spread over 2 sessions. There's the AM session and the PM session, total 6 hours. No penalty for wrong answers, so you're allowed to guess, as long as guessing is not your strategy, guys. Yeah, let's keep that in mind. The results you get is a pass-fail results in about 2 months. They give you topics-wise scores. And the MPS, the minimum passing score, is never disclosed by CFA Institute, either for current or past exams, ever. So you will not know the cutoff. Because if anyone tells you the cutoff is 70 or 65 or 80, they don't know what they're talking about. Okay? I don't know what the cutoff is. Okay? And the cutoff keeps changing by exam based on the difficulty, etc., etc. So I would just say aim for the highest. I mean, something above probably, 65, 70 is probably safer than below because it's a tough exam again. The pass rate for level 1 has been about in the 40s, early 40s. 42% was the pass rate for December 2019 level 1 exam. 42%, okay? Level 2 is only in June, as is level 3. Now level 2, 120 questions. Now the format for level 2 is different. It's item sets. Item sets basically means you have a case study followed by multiple choice questions. And you have 21 such item sets with 120 multiple choice questions spread across 2 sessions, total 6 hours. No penalty again for wrong answers. Results exactly the same as in level 1. Pass rate is higher, as you can see, 44% pass rate in June 2019. And finally, after you've climbed all the mountains and swum the rivers and done all the stuff, you reach the final frontier, what I call level 3. Now, level 3 is quite a unique beast, right? And I'll talk about that in more detail. It's essay in the morning and item set in the afternoon. Item set just like level 2. In 2 sessions, 6 hours, no change. The results again, pretty much no change. And it has the highest pass rate of 56%, right? So you go from 42 to 44 to 56%. And you see that it's getting easier. That's not true, okay? It is misleading, highly misleading. And I want you to focus on the extreme left, the pass rate for level 1, which is the lowest, which is the first level, the easiest level, and also has the lowest pass rate. I'll stress again, it is the easiest level and has the lowest pass rate. I'll dig into that later as to why this is happening so that you can be one of the 42% and not one of the 58%, right? So let's go level by level, right? Because I'm sure this is something that you've been looking forward to. And please keep the questions coming, okay? Right, so level 1. Level 1, this is the topic weights. These are the topics and the topic weights, okay? As you can see, ethics and FRA, FRA is financial reporting and analysis, are the 2 biggest topics, followed by equity and fixed income. So all the big boys are put in red, right? The 4 big boys are put in red. Then you have quants, economics, corporate finance, all 10% each. And then you have the smaller topics, which are derivatives, alts, and portfolio management, 6% each. I wanted to give a lot of attention to this weightage because this weightage will determine the importance you give to various topics. When you study, when you work out questions, how much time you spend on revision, how much time you spend worrying about something should be based on this weightage. Although you shouldn't be worrying, half seriously, I'm just joking here. Now, what are the tips and facts of level 1, right? So level 1, number 1, it's a foundation level. What's foundation level? It's like finance 101, guys. It's basic and covers a lot of ground. Like you can see, you have 10 topics covering almost the entire gamut of investing and finance, right? It is wide but not deep. I always say writing level 1 is like walking across a small puddle, parking lot puddle, right? Well, a parking lot puddle with a big parking lot. Basically, it's like walking for a mile, but inch deep water. You will not drown, but you're just going to ask, when is it going to end? It is so long. There's so much distance to cover. But you will never say that, oh my God, I'm getting lost. You shouldn't anyway. Yeah? The challenge here is to grasp and retain many basic concepts. You have about 450 learning outcome statements. This is the biggest challenge in level 1, guys. Remembering and understanding a lot of concepts. And remember, this is the first time in your life that you're probably writing 10 topics in one day. You've gone to university, CA, whatever. You haven't written 10 subjects in one day. You're covering 10 topics in one day. So that's a special challenge in itself. Of course, it can be cracked. It has been cracked, but keep that point in mind. A lot of formulae. In level 1, you have many formulae, okay? From quants, in FRA, in derivatives, in alts, in equity, fixed income, lots of calculations. The good thing here is, and I suggest you strongly follow my advice, use the financial calculator. It'll make your life so much easier. The BA2+ or the HP12C, whatever you prefer, your weapon of choice, whatever it is, learn how to use it because it will make your life easier and faster in the exam. Because a lot of things from correlations to covariance to bond time value, IRR, NPV can be done on the calculator, by the way. The same 10 topics will be tested in the morning and afternoon. So the same 10 topics will appear in the morning, and when you open the book in the afternoon, you'll see them again, right? The speed, you can do your math, right? So you have about 6 hours, that is 360 minutes, right? And you have how many? 240 questions. So there's a 1.5 minutes per question, 90 seconds per question. It sounds like very little. Actually, sometimes you can answer a question in 30 seconds, sometimes in 10 seconds. Sometimes a question takes about 5 minutes. Don't get stuck. Do not get stuck. Move on. Come back later when you get time. Don't be macro about it. Don't say, I'm a big man, I've done my CA or my whatever, and I will crack it. No, you'll be in deep trouble if you do that. You will lose time. Yeah. So that is about the story of the Gyan of level 1, right? Foundation, basic, but a lot of breadth, not much depth, a lot of concepts. And it's very conceptual. Please remember this. A lot of people, in fact, I want to go back. A lot of people make the mistake in level 1 of memorizing stuff. Level 1 is very conceptual, and the questions can be conceptual as well. Okay, unlike other exams that you've been to where they ask you to vomit your facts and figures and data, this is not like that. Okay, and also if your foundation in level 1 is weak, it will hit you in level 2 and 3 because level 3 and 2 are based on the previous levels. Yeah, so level 3 is based on 2 and 1. Level 2 is based a lot on level 1, which brings me very neatly talk about level 2. Now, level 2 is what you call, or what most people call, the hardcore part of CFA. Okay, I don't agree with it. I thought for me, when I did my CFA, actually level 3 was tougher because of the application element. But a lot of people see level 2 as tough. Why? Because one is it is very deep, and if you look at the topics and topic weightage, it's quite there's a range in weightage, right? FRA, ethics, 10 to 15, 5 to 10%, 5 to 15%. That means they can ask you from this number of questions, this number of questions. There's a range, right? So let's take an example, right? FRA, 10% to 15%, which means out of 120 questions, you can get 12 questions in FRA and you can get 18 questions in FRA, maximum 15%. So there's a range. Okay? The challenge in level 2, which of course the focus on level 2 is valuation. The challenge in level 2, guys, is it's wide and deep. And please remember that point. It's very important you remember this. It has got 3 to 4 times the complexity of level 1. It is quite, it's like swimming through an ocean. Level 1 is like walking through a parking lot puddle. I mentioned to you, right? 1 inch deep, you will never drown. Level 2 is deep and wide, which means if your basics and fundas in level 1 are weak, you will get hit big time in level 2, which is what happens to a lot of people, right? Lots more calculations in level 2 compared to level 1. You have calculations even in economics in level 2, which is not really there in level 1. Although really economics is not one of my favorite topics. You have to master the science of cracking item sets. What is an item set? I mentioned to you, it's a case study followed by multiple choice questions. You have specific time to crack them. So you can't waste time looking up and down and left and right. You have to read the question. Speed reading becomes a very valuable asset in this particular exam. Okay. Brush up your basics from level 1. Okay. Almost every topic in level 2 starts with level 1 basics. Whether it is FRA, you need to know your ratios. Ethics is almost the same as level 1. Derivatives, they start with futures, forwards, swaps, and options. So make sure your basics, your fundas in level 1 are solid, rock solid, right? And that your level 2 journey will be much more easier and faster. Ethics is a tough topic across the curriculum. It's the topic that has the same weightage in all 3 levels because ethics is such an important part of the investment profession. And I would suggest you read ethics from the CFA curriculum. CFA means CFA curriculum, not from any prep material that you've heard about, because those are summarized. Ethics is investment law. You need to read law from the source, like you read law in CA, right? Or if you're a lawyer. The same topics are not tested in AM and PM, unlike level 1. Some topics appear only in AM, some topics appear only in PM. So for example, you may not see quants in the morning, it may come in the afternoon, or it may come in the morning, but not in the afternoon. So that is one major difference between level 1 and level 2. The little bit of unpredictability in what can be tested when. For sure, all the topics will be tested, but the question is, where does it appear? That's a small issue anyway. As long as you're prepared, you're fine. So that is level 1 story, and that's level 2. So level 1 is focused on foundation. Level 2 focus on valuation. Keep that point in mind. So valuation means valuation of stocks, bonds, real estate, using free cash flows, price comparables, etc., right? A lot of calculations. And this is where you learn the ins and outs of equity valuation and equity research. So if you want to become an equity researcher, level 2 is absolutely critical. It's important that you understand level 2 very well, because this is what you're going to be applying when you get a job as an analyst, sell side or buy side, either way. And finally, we come to the big boy, right? Level 3, what I call the final frontier, right? This is where, people look forward to passing it and finally getting the charter and, end of the CFA journey. Now, level 3, as I mentioned to you, is a very unusual beast because the curriculum is very focused. As you can see on the right side, topics are fewer, right? There is no FRA, no quants, no corporate finance. All those are out. What remains? Now, what you see here. And the biggest topic is the one at the bottom called portfolio management, which is a 35 to 40%, which covers equity portfolio management, behavioral finance, private wealth management, institutional portfolio management. Fascinating areas, lots of application, very interesting. I personally found level 3 the most interesting, but also the toughest of all 3 levels, because I was not a private banker, I wasn't a portfolio manager, so I didn't have the experience. Again, experience is not essential to pass level 3 or CFA. If you're academically bright and focused and diligent, you can crack it. So it's a very interesting curriculum. Now, level 3 is about application. And that means, by the way, interestingly, less calculation. You'll be asked to answer or critique something, maybe supported by calculations, or recommend something supported by calculation, but not always, right? You practice writing, very important. The morning session, like I said earlier, is essay. The afternoon session is item set. And the morning session is where most candidates get killed, not literally, but they fail because of their poor performance in the morning. Why? Because they're not able to write quickly, concisely, clearly. Unlike CA, and I'm a chartered accountant, and I know that when I wrote my chartered accountancy final exams, and if you're the first guy to raise your arms in the exam room and ask for more paper, people look at you and say, oh my God, this guy's a genius. He's a bloody genius, okay? That's not going to happen in CFA. It is structured. They give you boxes to fill in. You're not going to write stories. You can't write stories. There's not enough time or scope for that. So writing here is very different from CA writing, or different from college writing. Be very careful about that, okay? And you can be as smart as you want to be, as hardworking as you want to be. But if you can't write the relevant points within the time, doesn't matter, you fail. Okay? Be a time ninja, right? Absolutely, have to crack the time code here. And learn resilience. The morning session is highly stressful because you have 9 to 11 essay questions to be answered in 3 hours. And you're looking at a question and looking at a blank sheet of paper. You don't have the comfort of multiple choice questions. You don't have ABC looking at you. And by the way, multiple choice in CFA means 3 choices, A, B, and C. Although there's no negative marking, but still you don't have the comfort of multiple choice in level 3 morning, right? And again, ethics are very important in level 3. Again, please read ethics from the CFA curriculum. So generally across all 3 levels, please read ethics from the source itself, right? Not from in-prep material. And again, just like level 2, some topics in level 3 will only appear in the morning or will only appear in the afternoon. Some topics, of course, appear in both. So again, a little bit of unpredictability in level 3. So level 3 calls for a lot of application, a lot of thinking on your feet, or thinking on your seat rather, in the exam hall. Memorizing facts blindly won't help you here, or figures or formula, because like I said, not many calculations. And it's all about, okay, this is the case study, this is the concept I know, this is what the question is asking. What is the intersection of the 3? Case study, question, concept. The Venn diagram of the 3, the intersection is the answer they want and nothing else. Okay, so level 1 foundation, level 2 valuation, level 3 application. Brilliant curriculum, unique curriculum. You'll never see anything else of its kind in the world. So tips and tricks, right? Especially for those guys writing level 1, because the guys writing level 2 and 3, you're veterans almost, right? You have been through the journey, you know the stuff. First tip, at least 400 hours for level 1. I say at least because I know people are asking this question, how many hours? It's like asking me how long is a piece of string, right? It depends. So I'm a chartered accountant and I was a CA when I wrote this level 1. I probably spent about 300 hours for level 1, right? I spent about 500 or 600 hours for level 2 and about the same 600 hours for level 3. So you can see, right? And I'm a chartered accountant, you're a CA, keep that in mind. Level 1 for you should not be difficult because FRA is huge, corporate finance is big, equity valuation is big. You covered that in CFA. If you don't have an accounting background or finance background, you'll need to spend more time. If you take time to understand or grasp topics or forget things quickly, you'll spend more time. So this time number is a factor of many things, many factors. So keep that point in mind. If you don't have an accounting background and you think that you're average in academics, start earlier for the CFA level 1 studies. Yeah. Start early, exactly. At least 4 months prior. Okay, 2 months is too short unless you're like a genius level IQ of 250 or something, and you never forget anything and you have photographic memory, which most of us don't have. So that is very important. The topics, like I said, prioritize across all 3 levels. Study smart. I'm not saying ignore the small topics like derivatives or alts, but the big boys, FRA, ethics, equity, fixed income, those you cannot ignore. And a weakness on those big topics can prove fatal to you in the exam. So don't go there, right? Study regularly, guys. This is not college where you open your book when you want to. 4 days before the exam, you suddenly realize there's an exam. Look around, you don't have any textbooks. You run after your friend, borrow his books, or beg or borrow or steal his books, and then write the exam. And lo and behold, you pass. That won't happen in CFA. I can trust you. Huh? Level 1 is about concepts. So memorizing formula again, not very important. Yes, there are lots of formula in level 1 and level 2, and you should know it. But understand and then memorize. Understand the formula and then memorize, and then that makes sense. Yeah. Practice essential. What does that mean? Lots of questions, at least 2,000 questions over the study period, from wherever you want to get them, from prep material, from CFA online, CFA curriculum, end of chapter questions, and do lots of mock exams, at least 4 exams, full day exams, and spend at least 3 weeks, if not 4 weeks on revision. Because trust me, if you start studying in July, by the time you reach October, you'd have forgotten half of what you studied. It happened to me in all 3 levels. Okay, that's not because you have a brain dysfunction. That's natural to everyone. Okay. Why do people fail? Yeah. Why do people fail level 1, which has the lowest pass rate of 42%, despite being the easiest exam? Right? Little or no idea what CFA requires. Overconfident because I'm a chartered accountant or I did this in uni. I know quite a few CAs who failed level 1 the first time because they took it easily. You will leave the studying for later, the month before the exam, just like college. Okay. You don't prioritize. You waste a lot of time on small, tricky topics like derivatives, for example, or one particular study session in economics, which really doesn't make sense. You work out easy questions, ignore your mistakes. You spend very little time on revision. Revision should at least take 3 weeks because effectively you're going to go over the old curriculum again, right? Not to the same depth, but you'll have to. Take a few mocks or no mocks at all. Remember, guys, this is a 6-hour exam. You have not done a 10-topic exam before. You haven't done a 6-hour exam before. It's a mental marathon. Don't forget that. So unless you test yourself at home before you walk into the exam hall, I know many cases, many students of mine who've been there without doing proper mocks and they got smashed after the first half and they had to go back home because they were zoned out. They could not focus. Yeah. And you just memorize concepts without understanding. This is a common reason what I found among my students, the reason why they failed, right? Now, questions again, analysis, right? Pros and cons of CFA, essential investment management. You learn a lot on valuation and portfolio management. It's technically interesting work, by the way, compared to, investment banking, where a lot of work is presentations and sell side work. It's emerging market. Emerging market growth is significant for CFA. It's affordable. Well, affordability is a bit relative, but compared to an MBA from a top school anywhere in the world, it's affordable. You have a very active CFA society in India. I'm a member of the society. I've spoken at their events. It's a well-led, well-structured, well-organized society. They have a lot of events. You should try and attend them, at least virtually. Yeah. What are the cons of CFA? I like to talk about both sides, pros and cons. The cons, number one, it's too theoretical. You don't learn much practical knowledge on CFA. That's why, the articleship in CA is hugely helpful. In CFA, you don't have an articleship. You have a required work experience. Hopefully, you learn a lot of the stuff at work. Automation can, sort of make some people redundant because machines are taking over slowly. It's less relevant outside investment management. It's not a good substitute for a good MBA. You cannot say that CFA versus MBA. We'll talk about that as well, right? And passive investing is picking up a lot over the last 10, 20 years. It is a threat to active investing because CFA charter holders are much more valuable and required in active investing, where you actually sort of play with security selection and timing. Yeah. And one big issue in India, other parts of the world, oversupply of pass outs. Too many people are passing out, to be honest. Okay, and not getting jobs sometimes. So that's the problem, but not to worry too much. If you can stand out, you get a job. How do you stand out? That we can talk about later. You've probably seen my LinkedIn posts. I have some links on my website that will give you some very useful tips on how to stand out in a crowded market like this, for example. Yeah. So this is the pros and cons of CFA. Like nothing is perfect, right? You have to look at both sides of the equation. And of course, self-study, right? Like every self-study course, you have limitations. Now, CFA versus MBA. Now, honestly speaking, you should not compare CFA and MBA. It's like comparing apples and oranges, because MBA is a wide course, broad course, not practitioner, not technical, even MBA in finance. Okay, it's not meant for investment management. which is opposite of what CFA is. So, but still I keep getting asked this question, CFA versus MBA, CFA versus MBA. So this is the comparison, right? I'm not going to read out each line, each factor to you. You look at this, you look at the pros and cons of CFA, and you say, okay, what do I want to do, right? It is not that you do an MBA because you don't want to do CFA, despite having the same career goal, because both this will lead to different careers. You need to understand that. MBA is for investment banking, CFA is for investment management. So two different things, right? So you've got to be clear as to which career you want first, like I said at the beginning of this webinar, right? Then CFA versus CA, which is better? Again, a foolish question, because again, two different qualifications completely, right? Your CA is audit, accounting, tax, law. CFA is investing. So they're different, but they're complementary, right? So I think in CA, you're focused on memorizing a lot, calculating a lot, remembering a lot. You don't apply analysis a lot. You don't apply interpretation a lot. If you do CFA, you'll have to start working on how to analyze. Because from my experience, chartered accountants, some of them can't analyze. They are very good in number crunching, accounting, reporting, taxes, law, but ask them to put the big picture together and make a recommendation. They can't do that, okay? Because they haven't studied that properly. Interpretation becomes very important, right, in CFA. So does a CFA help? Yes, it does, because any accounting degree helps. Does a CA help? Yes, it helps. Is a CA essential for CFA? No, it's not. As long as you have a good accounting background, it's going to be easier. Even if you don't have a good accounting background, you can learn while you're doing CFA, although it'll be tougher for you then, because you're handling two issues, right? Upgrading your basics and cracking the core of CFA at the same time, right? So CA is not essential, but it's a good combination, CA plus CFA, because it means you have the accounting background and the investing overlay. CFA hence makes sense. Level 1 and level 2 will be easier for chartered accountants. I mentioned that earlier. But does the CA-CFA combination make sense? Well, it depends on the career, right? And that depends on the role. So if you're working in equity analysis, fantastic. If you're working in portfolio management, private wealth management, or trading, not that useful. So it all depends on how you can leverage the CA, right? And the CFA combination. So like I said, these 2 points, right? Many CAs can't write clearly, present confidently, analyze, interpret, or connect the dots. This is the unfortunate fact. They're very good in memorizing stuff, very diligent, very hardworking. But that's it, unfortunately. And I'm a chartered accountant. I've taught chartered accountants. I work with chartered accountants. I know what I'm talking about, right? But many analyst guys don't have an accounting background. The guys working in Wall Street and in Dallas Street, they don't have an accounting background. So if you have the CA and the accounting background and you have the CFA and you're able to really leverage both, and you can present and write and interpret, you'll become a star. You can stand out, right? That's the whole idea. Some books that I recommend for further reading, okay? Howard Marks, Ashwat Damodaran, of course, everyone's heard about, right? NYU Stern Professor of Finance. And Gregory Zuckerman is the author of the book on Jim Simons, who is the most successful and most fun manager. Forget Warren Buffett, Peter Lynch, and all those guys. This guy is the one who's really cracked the market, right? He's a genius. Good reading that you should, books that you should lay your hands on. Of course, my podcast called The Real Finance Mentor. It is available online. I sort of launched the podcast 6 months ago, purely to mentor young finance professionals, because there are a lot of guidance missing out there on how to upgrade your skills, what career to look for, how to pass the tough exams. This is focused on the finance careers, CA, CFA. I interview practitioners, I interview students. You may have heard some of the podcasts before. I keep posting on LinkedIn, where I'm very active. So check out the website, therealfinancementor.com. Look at the resources, select what you want and listen to it, right? Quite useful. Specifically, I would say in terms of webinars, I have checked these 3 webinars because they all focused on chartered accountants. Closing the gap for CA students, the first one. Second one, from chartered accountants to leaders, the rewarding transformation, the second one. And the third one, career insight, closing the skills gap webinar, which I did for CFA Society India a few months ago. And this phase is of Biharilal Diora, chartered accountant, CFA charter holder. I interviewed him a few months ago for my podcast. And he is a very experienced guy. He's mentored hundreds of candidates in CA and CFA. He's a very prominent figure in the CA and CFA community in India, in Mumbai especially. Listen to his podcast. It's almost an hour. I interviewed him, and he gives very mature, clear, concise advice on CA, CFA studies, career, etc., etc. Right. So worth listening to. It's like like a virtual mentor, right? And that's pretty much it. Yeah. So thank you so much for listening to me. I can now switch over to the Q&A session. If anyone has any questions.
All right. Thank you, Binod. It was such an amazing session. I would request everyone to go and see and go and visit your LinkedIn page and hear the podcast for their knowledge. So we'll take the questions first that we have received on our Instagram. So the first question which was received on Instagram was by Pranav. He asked, is it mandatory to hold a CFA degree to pursue a career in investment banking, or a CA degree would do?
So good question. Neither CA or CFA is ideal for investment banking. For investment banking, basically, you need to look at an MBA in finance, because investment banking is about pitching for deals and concluding deals. A lot of presentation and networking skills are required, apart from technical skills. Technical skills, of course, you get in CA and CFA, more so in CFA than CA. But the other skills, so what big investment banks look for, they look for this communication skills, presentation skills, and hence they hire mainly from campus of MBA or business schools, B schools. So a CFA in the olden days, CA, yeah, investment bank you probably would have gotten, but now MBAs are quite prominent. So CA and CFA, not really, okay, maybe unusual circumstances, but the right vehicle to get into a top-notch investment banking firm is a MBA from a decent school.
All right. So the second question is from Varad Rathi. He asked, can I pursue my graduation, CA articleship and CFA at the same time?
Can you do your graduation, CA articleship and CFA
at the same time? Yeah.
Right. So the question here, like I mentioned in the beginning, guys, for registering for level 1 of the CFA exam, you need to be in the final year of your degree. So it doesn't matter about articleship or your graduation. If you're in your final year of degree, then you can apply for CFA and level 1. And of course, while doing a CA articleship. Although I don't know how you can study for CA and CFA at the same time, but that's a different issue. But registration-wise, you need to be in the final year, and then you can definitely sign up for CFA.
All right. So the third question is from Neethi. She asked that which company do I need to work in to get a CFA charter while giving CFA exams?
Right. So good question. Yeah. That's about your qualifying work experience. Now, that, like I said, has to be in any company where you end up analyzing economic, financial, or statistical data with a view to investment decision making. That is a very important definition. Analysis of economic, financial, or statistical data with a view to investment decision making. Because as a CFA charter holder, you're going to be involved in investment decision making. So, for example, I got my CFA charter while working in a real estate company. What was I doing there? Financial analysis and financial planning and project feasibilities, which is exactly what the CFA experience requires. So you don't have to work in a bank or investment bank or insurance company or a advisory firm. As long as you're analyzing data and making investment recommendations, that qualifies. Yeah.
All right. Let's take few questions from the chat box.
Sure.
So Sunny asks that I'm a chartered accountant student. My question is, why does a CFA institute consider articleship mandatory internship a CA student has gone through as relevant work experience? As you might have personally experienced that it's quite rigorous and sufficient to qualify as relevant work experience. The student, okay.
So basically the question, Chaitanya, if I understand is, why doesn't the CA articleship count as work experience for CFA?
Yes.
Okay, that's interesting. I think the CFA work experience says clearly it has to be a full-time position, not an internship, right? Now, I'm not sure whether articleship qualifies as a full-time position, right? You're after all studying under principal, right? I haven't heard this question before. And as long as maybe something that you can write directly to CFA Institute and ask them about this. does it qualify as your work experience to get the charter?
All right. So there's one question, Neeta. Can I postpone my CFA exam after I've registered? Is there any criteria also?
They don't allow you no refunds are allowed by CFA Institute. They do allow you to, at least this year, they allow you to postpone from June to December because of the COVID pandemic. So, but no refunds are ever allowed, right? And I think even in normal circumstances, they allow you to defer up to a few weeks before the exam. If you're too close to the exam, they will not allow you to postpone or defer. I think that is about 3 weeks before the exam. You are allowed to change. You're allowed to change your exam center. You're allowed to defer or postpone, things like that.
Okay, we have received few questions regarding the salary and the place of working. I would suggest that you can search these questions on Google, and all these information is related given on the website. Okay, so let's take one of this question. Sure. Does the CFA curriculum help in adapting to the disruption caused by the integration of technology and finance?
Yeah, good question again. So what the CFA Institute has been doing has been looking at the market, listening to the practitioners, and modifying the curriculum accordingly, right? So the last 2 years, they've actually incorporated quite a few changes to the curriculum at level 1 and level 2 and level 3. One change is machine learning and artificial intelligence, which has been brought into at a basic level in both level 1 and level 2, which is the technological disruption you're talking about. The other change that they have brought is the fintech, financial technology. What does it mean? What are the different players? That also has been included in the CFA curriculum. I think it's in level 2 as part of the quants curriculum. So yes, it is being slowly incorporated in the curriculum.
Okay, so this question, I didn't get it completely, but okay. Can AI and technology replace CFAs fully?
Oh, wow. You want to make us unemployed, is it? Good one. Can AI and technology replace? No, it's a very good question, actually. Can AI, I believe, not because I'm biased, I'm a CFA charter holder, but I believe that machines are very far away from replicating certain human skills. So I think we are at least maybe 20, 30 years away. Till then, it is going to be AI plus HI, what I call human intelligence. I'll give an example quickly. So out there, machines are very good at something that humans are not good at, which is what? Going through lots of data very quickly and accurately, like last 10 years, last 30 years data. Right? And so they're very good at detecting patterns, and all those kind of things. Machines are not good at making judgment calls. Machines are not good at managing disruption. Machines are not good at communicating, etc., etc., etc. So this is actually a topic for a separate webinar even. But actually, I think if you develop your soft skills, if you develop your analytical skills, then you can work very easily and leverage machines rather than say machines will take over. Because in that situation, machines would take over. However, I should give a very important caveat. In areas where machines predominate and human skills are not relevant, like trading, algorithmic trading, then machines have taken over and will continue to take over. They are much faster, much smarter, much more efficient. But a lot of other areas like portfolio management, private wealth management, the human touch, the human impact is very important even now.
All right. So there's one question, CA plus CFA or FRM plus CFA?
CA plus CFA or FRM plus CFA?
Plus CFA, yes.
Guys, this is not like picking things from a menu in a restaurant. Seriously, I should say this because back in India, we have this thing that, badge collection. I call it badge collection. Be it CA, CFA, FRM, Kaya. First of all, look at the career you want, right? What is the career you want? If it's a career in equity research, Ritesh, then CA, CFA makes sense. If it's a career in risk management, then probably FRM plus CFA makes sense. Otherwise, it doesn't make any sense. And again, what career you choose depends on you, right? Not on me, on your skills, your strengths, because each career has pros and cons, right? Salaries are different, right? Prospects are different. So that's my answer to you. CA, CFA, fantastic for equity research and even portfolio management, I would think, yeah.
Okay. So last few questions we'll take. Age limit for the CFA. Do we have any age limit?
There is no, Chetan, there's no age limit for CFA whatsoever.
Okay. So I guess guys, we are the questions that you're asking regarding the registration and the fees, all these things are available on the website of CFA. It will be better, you can go and check out there. Also, Mr. Binod has covered some of the structure and the courses which are there, so you can go there. Just one last question: can we start working in investment management as CA?
Investment management as CA, to be honest, most investment managers prefer to hire CFA charter holders or someone who's at least done CFA level 1. If you're a CA and you're saying you've written level 1 and passed level 1, that stands a much better chance of getting a job than just saying CA. Okay, let's face it, guys, CA, while a great qualification, I'm a CA myself, it's basically accounting, audit, law, taxes, and it doesn't really focus on valuation investment management the way CFA does. So if you really want to get into investment management to prove to employers that you're serious, either get the charter or at least pass level 1 before applying is my advice to you.
All right. So one last question, Binod. In India's nowadays, valuation is very important. A CFA can be certified value.
I'm not sure about Sanchit. I'm not sure about Indian laws whether you can be a certified valuer or not. I know CFA, of course, you cover valuation of stocks and bonds. It doesn't cover real estate that much. And I know there are certain qualifications, like certified valuer in Canada and other places, which are certified, prestigious. I'm not sure about the Indian scenario, so sorry, I can't answer that. Yeah.
All right. So I think we'll just take those questions. So guys, thank you so much. It was a very insightful session on CFA by Mr. Binod. I really hope all your queries about the course were addressed in today's session. As far as the recorded session is considered, the same will go on our Insta page and our YouTube page. It is already streaming live on Facebook. So you can go and check out there if you didn't watch the whole session from the starting. In any case, you're thinking to establish a career in CFA and you want to coached by certain experts, you can contact Mr. Binod. Also, we have we have a full package course on CA Club India for CFA by the seasonal experts. So the link of the course is already given below. Thank you so much. I'll just give the link of Mr. Binod's LinkedIn on the chat box. You can also follow him on LinkedIn and you can hear his the Real Finance Mentor podcast. It will be very helpful for you to study and get the relevant knowledge what is required. Right. So thank you, everyone. Thank you so much, Binod.
So a few words from my side. Thank you, everyone. It's been very interesting, very interactive. Thank you, Chaitanya and CA Club India. You guys can contact me on LinkedIn. I'm very active on LinkedIn. Or my email address is here as well, binod.shankar@gmail.com. I don't teach CFA myself, so I'm quite impartial and quite unbiased in terms of my advice.
Absolutely.
I have no vested interest here, so you can take my advice as something from expert with insight without any bias. So very nice talking to you on a Saturday evening. Thank you so much again, Chaitanya.
Thank you, Binod. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. You can join our WhatsApp and Telegram group for such more session. We'll be always surely welcoming Binod for the future sessions so that you can address all the queries that we have got from the community. Thank you, Binod.
Thank you so much. Thanks, guys. Have a good evening.